It's been 4 years since Game of Thrones' disastrous final season came out, and the taste is no less bitter in my mouth. Game of Thrones and A Song of Ice and Fire is perhaps, I think, my favourite television show of all time, and the books are my favourite novel series of all time. And it's such a shame what happened to that show, but that's been talked about relentlessly. We know what went wrong there, we know how they rushed it, and we know how the writing was terrible, and that's been discussed at length. Naturally, then, when the first of the long list of spin off series that HBO is planning to make in George R. Martin's world was announced, House of the Dragon, I was both a little skeptical but also excited. As a huge fan of Martin's world, I was excited to see whether or not they could produce a good, competent show. So I followed the production pretty closely, and I think it's fair to say that when it came out, I was, on the whole, pleasantly surprised. So, House of the Dragon is based on the fictional history of Westeros. So it's not based on any novel, but I've read the book it was based on, and it's quite dry, but for a nerd like me, it is interesting. Obviously, George wrote it when he should have been writing Winds of Winter, and Winds of Winter is still not out, so that's unfortunate. But it's not based on a novel, but it is based on events that have been outlined by George. Now, I did find that the show started off a little bit slow. When I first tried to watch it, I did find it started off a bit slow. But around the halfway mark, as the characters start to age up, things really do begin to pick up. And by the end of the season, it really did become an exciting, very exciting at times show. Very, very nice production value, very beautiful visual effects, good acting, good writing. Not as good as Game of Thrones in its heyday, but still entirely respectable writing, with the exception of a few scenes, such as the scene, well, I'm not going to spoil it, but a scene where one character bursts through the floor of the dragon pit, riding on the back of her dragon, and it's pretty stupid. It defies the laws of physics, and it ruins a character moment for one character, which is unfortunate. Now, overall, I'd say I rate it a solid 8 out of 10. It is a pretty great show. With that being said, I do have some reservations as the series moves into its second season. It's now being produced. I think those concerns stem around, well, partly they announced that it will only be 8 episodes long. Now that is worrying, because as we all know, when Game of Thrones was deteriorating, the first thing they began to do was start cutting episodes from seasons. Like season 7 was only 7 episodes, obviously season 8 only 6. And that, to me, is not great. It's not great at all. It's not... I mean, there's plenty of source material. There's a lot of stuff that happened in the Dance of the Dragons, and I feel like they really shouldn't be cutting out material, and they shouldn't be cutting down the seasons unless nothing's really going to happen next season. I have heard that as a theory, to try and pad it out just beyond what's necessary. So that could be a problem. They could go in the way of the Hobbit films and just pad it out to an obscene level. Another problem, and it's a slight problem, but it does appear that one side of the conflict, which revolves around Rhaenyra, the female claimant to the throne, does appear, and it seems as if they're being set up to be the protagonists. In the book, anyway, both sides are very much, neither side comes off particularly well. But obviously, I think that the show might be leaning into the more feminist angle and presenting them as being clear-cut protagonists. I mean, most polls done by the company on Twitter and stuff reveal that around 80% of people support Rhaenyra, which does not imply that the conflict is being given the most equal of treatment, which is unfortunate, obviously, because one of the morals of the book is that obviously both sides are in the wrong and the people suffer. So there might be a situation now where large numbers of fans are willing to eagerly embrace atrocities and violence because it's being perpetuated by Rhaenyra or characters that they like, which is unfortunate. And so yeah, those are just a few thoughts. I'm a bit worried about the show and going forward. A bit worried that we could see deterioration in writing, either things getting rushed or things getting padded out too much. But maybe I think that they might be able to keep it good.